told us by deputy ministers in different governments in the department. Treaty trumps law. And that's the relationship. It's a treaty relationship. What is happening today, they've been pushing us underneath the Canadian system. In this position, it's not about money. It's about recognizing that sovereignty and that relationship that we had and we never relinquished. As far as we're concerned, we're going to continue to make that journey, to make that a parallel relationship with the Crown as it was in Treaty Number 6 in 1876. It was a sovereign relationship. We never relinquished that. It took two sovereigns to enter into a treaty. Treaty trumps law, Canadian law. Thank you very much.
Chief Dwayne, just quickly before we get into question and answer.
Good morning, everybody, elders that are here, and all the chiefs. I can only speak on my own band. That's Palmaker Cree Nation. We're a band, custom band. We make our own laws on the reserve. I'm probably the only one that signed a funding agreement this year. I signed it because I was under duress, because we needed our funding based on our operations. Yes, we have budget cuts, but we have to keep moving on. I support all the chiefs today. That's why I'm here today. We have to go back to the table with the federal government. It's not Indian affairs. Indian affairs are only the spokespeople for the federal government. We have to sit with Stephen Harper. This is the same thing that happened back in 1885 during our rebellion days. Our people got their rations, everything taken away. That's why there was an uproar. For Palmaker anyway. I can only speak for Palmaker. With that, chiefs, I'm going to continue supporting you guys from 1 to 11. Thank you very much.
Question and answer. I just want to acknowledge Chief Okamau that came here from Lucky Man. I want to acknowledge you, Chief.
Thank you.
So, question answer.
Yeah, the only, just for microphone purposes.
Well, we can switch the way we.
Sure. Well, one question first. As far as the assembled First Nations here, how many First Nations are not going to be signing the agreement, and how many are sort of here in support? I mean, just so I make sure I get my.
I think I'll start off answering and then move it on here. I think the point that needs to be made is that there's one that didn't sign last year and the rest that signed under duress, right? Which was Pepexies. Now today we have more than one band and it's growing, right? So the First Nations you have here, Thunderchild First Nation did not sign. March 31st, we're not going to have an agreement at all, right? Yet we qualify for a 4-year agreement based on our general assessment from Indian Affairs, right? But the bottom line is that we have other First Nations that have been forced, due to sign under duress. Chief Fox?
Last year, as I said in the earlier comments, we signed under duress also. This year, the mandate given to us by our membership was do not sign this amended agreement. And like many of the chiefs earlier spoke, we met with some of the senior bureaucrats. We met with the deputy minister last year. We met with the Minister of Indian Affairs. What happens if Onion Lake doesn't sign next year? We'll put you the third party. We have unqualified audits galore for many, many years in our community. How can you justify that? You have no legal basis and mandate. No legal basis and mandate. They don't have a dispute mechanism process. We called them on that last year. They reinstated our funding because there is no process at that time. To answer your question, are they going to put Onion Lake in third party? I welcome that challenge to the federal government. Bring it on. They are not gonna push Onion Lake Cree Nation around anymore. You hear the frustration in my voice. The time has come for those people in Ottawa that have been deciding our fates, our futures for the last 135 years. The day stops here. They have to come to the table, and they will.
And Chief Fox, just so I'm clear, because I'm certainly no expert on treaty or anything, but I mean, try and sum up exactly what it is about this agreement that's basically making you not want to sign it.
Basically, it's talked about earlier by many of the colleagues. They are still telling us what to do. They are still defining these budgets without consultation, without understanding the needs of our people. There's legislation that they're imposing and developing. By signing these agreements, you're pre-agreeing to any of those like that. Who the heck would you want to agree to something like that as an individual? This is what we're being forced to do. They're arbitrarily designing these and these documents to that effect. By us entering into these agreements, if they change the legislation between now and next fiscal year, that is going to, again, detract from the position we're in with treaty and violate that position. By signing this agreement, we're pre-accepting and pre-approving anything.
Can you give us an example of the kind of pre-agreement that you're making? What are the give us some examples of the kind of thing you agree to and they'll tell you down the line.
Example, First Nation Education Act. If we had signed this last year, which we didn't, we filed notice a week, 10 days in advance on March 18th to the federal government that we are not going to, we're asserting our rights as a sovereign entity. Legislation was passed on March 28th. Okay, these funding agreements now have to be consolidated, audited, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We will provide our consolidated audit to our membership. The INAC funded programs will provide that audit to the federal government. Because it's the people in Onion Lake that we work for, and it's their resource that we're using on all our companies and business entities until Valcourt can demonstrate and Harper how much money they put in this business and that business of their federal money. You have absolutely no business in what we're doing. That's one example. The second part of this example is that education legislation. That wasn't part of this last year. Now, we're agreeing to this by signing on to this agreement. That's a policy legislation because it affects our education budgets. And this is the streamlining effect that it's going to have, that the federal government is wiping their hands of all liability in education. This is in their information. This is coming from their documentation. They're transferring all that responsibility to provincial entities. All the curriculum, developing salaries, anything pertaining to education is going to the provincial entities. Now, that's in that agreement. That's a policy change and a legislative change. By agreeing to this, we're agreeing to that.
Just further, in the agreement, it talks about the enhanced authority of the minister and his agents, his or her agents. So you have the minister who, through these agreements, or arrangements is what they call them now, that he has the ultimate authority to do whatever, but yet he's indemnified. There's an indemnification clause in there that